How can a marketing manager do a brilliant job in their role and rapidly climb up the marketing career ladder, Dan?
Again, Lloyd, that's a really good question. And luckily, we recently hired a really great marketing manager, and I put a lot of time and effort into coming up with a whole guide for them to help them do brilliantly in their job, which is why this is a very handy episode for us, because I'm going to share all that hard work that was put into that guide so that it's useful to the viewers and listeners.
Great. Well, I look forward to hearing how people can rapidly climb the marketing career ladder.
Well, yeah, you want to make it sound interesting, Lloyd.
We want to make it sound rapid, don't we? Don't want to slowly climb a career.
Exactly. But yeah, there's lots like putting this guide together really made me think about this in a lot of detail. I think I'd never previously thought, how can I really support one of our teams in our marketing team to do a great job? And this actually made me like really think about it and get it down on paper in detail. So I'm hoping that if you're a marketing manager and you're listening to this, obviously this is very relevant. But if you work in marketing at all, this will be relevant. Also, if you do just want to do a good job, there's some more sort of generic advice of doing a good job in a company. So it's useful for anyone who wants to do
Having read all of the notes for this episode as well, I actually think a load of this is this episode can basically be used as how to be good at any job and rapidly climb the career ladder.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is can be transferred over to other industries and stuff. I don't know if you will be listening to the Business Anchors podcast if you're not in the marketing world, but I do think it's relevant.
So there's a few key headings that we're going to dive into. Shall I give those?
Please give those headings.
Cool. So first of all, the first one is about understanding your responsibilities and your goals or objectives.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is effective time management and improving efficiency.
Sexy.
Then we've got measuring success and making improvements. Then being proactive, and then being bold, which sounds really cringy.
Oh, that is a cringy one. I look forward to that part.
I couldn't think of a better way of like communicating what I was trying to say.
That's good to know that you didn't want to say that, you just couldn't think of anything better. Thank you for preparing this episode so well.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you what, Dan. This whole episode, I'm going to be being bold.
Great.
I want to.
It's going to be one of those episodes.
I want to climb the ladder. I'm going to be bold.
It's one of those episodes where you add very little, but you just take the piss out of me, so you make it difficult for me to communicate my ideas.
Sounds bold to me.
So the first heading, or the thing that we're going to focus on, if you want to do a really good job in your role, is about understanding your responsibilities and your goals. Now, I know this sounds really simple, but for you to do a good job, you need to understand what is required to do a good job and what you're aiming towards. Now, if you work for a good company, hopefully they've outlined this for you. You know, in your induction, they'll communicate like, this is what you're responsible for. We want you to do X, Y, Z and achieve X, Y, Z. But if they haven't, I think it's really important for you to either speak to your like line manager or whoever's you go to speak to, and ask them, what are my goals and what are my objectives and what am I aiming towards and what are my responsibilities?
I think even if it has been outlined as well, having the conversation and saying what are actually the most important things. Like if in a year's time you were to say, oh, this person has smashed it in their role because they've achieved this, this and this. I think finding out from your line manager and just finding out for the business in general what those things are is really important. And I think even if it has been outlined vaguely, I think really deeply understanding what's the most important thing for the business right now. What could I do where they would be in a year's time be like, wow, they've achieved that and that has really helped us.
I think this has made me think of another point actually, is ask shitloads of questions. I think sometimes, and I felt like this before, sometimes you can feel like I've got a new job, I'm supposed to know everything because I've got the job. And when something crops up that you think, I don't quite know that, and you don't ask because you're scared to, then that's worse than actually asking. Like I with our new marketing manager and anyone who we're working with closely, I love it when they're like asking very detailed questions. Like, you mentioned this, how you do that, but how do you do this and that? Because you can tell that they're listening and they want to do a good job. I never think, you're shit, you should know this. I think, you're good. You're asking this so you get it right. So definitely ask those questions. And even on this point of understanding your responsibilities and goals, if they haven't set out any, you could even be proactive and think of your own as well. Like they may.
I think if you haven't got any goals or there's nowhere that they can sort of say, oh, you need to be supporting us to do this. I definitely think ask for those.
And
I mean, not ask for those, actually come up with those and say, okay, if I did this, this and this, would that be something that would be valued?
And they might not have given these to you. It doesn't mean that they're a shit company. Like people get busy and have like your line manager will have lots of responsibilities. So sometimes they just haven't quite thought of this even at the start when we started, we weren't setting this stuff out and we weren't necessarily shit.
And it's really useful and helpful and valuable to have an employee being proactive and coming to you saying, I really want to make sure that we're aligned with like what I'm trying to achieve and where we're going. I've set out these things that I think I should aim to achieve in my role. Is that a good direction you think we should be heading in? And then your line manager or whoever will be like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, well done for this. These two, really good. Yeah, maybe not that one. Aim more for this and that will be valuable. And then you'll have a direction to go.
Being proactive is a whole separate area we're going to talk about. But I think that is another thing that really makes someone stand out in their role if they're doing stuff without you asking them to do it.
And while you're doing that, be bold.
Yes, be bold as well. I hate you.
The next point, effective time management, sounds pretty sexy.
So this is actually really sexy, Lloyd.
Ooh.
So to give context, any good business will be wanting to get the most out of their inverted commas like resource or the people that are working for them. Now, some businesses go too far and work their employees into the ground and make them work loads of hours and that kind of thing. We're definitely not that type of business. We really want to focus on the time that our employees are working for us to actually get the most out of what they are doing the time they've got. So, and every good business should have this as an objective. So anything you can do as part of the team to ensure you're getting more done in the same amount of time or like better work done in the same amount of time is going to really impress your company because that's what they're...
Something that's good here as well. You may think, well, I've only got so much time in a day. That's all I can get done. But actually introducing and implementing new processes can save you and other people in the business time. So it may be that you're thinking, well, there's no more I can do. I'm doing everything I can. But then it's like, oh, actually, as a marketing manager, I'm implementing this process. So we have this 10-minute catch up with these people in the department. And that's going to save the 12 10-minute conversations we have to have throughout the week that are wasting everyone's time.
Exactly.
So there's new processes you can implement as well that people will really value as well if you're helping them in their role or their communication with you with a new process that's going to save everyone time.
On that point, in the kind of marketing manager's handbook that I created, one of the key headings was efficiency, and I came up with a whole load of suggestions for how the person can be more efficient. And it was things like looking at tools that can make your life or what you do more efficient, looking at new processes and ways of working, that kind of thing, like you said, Lloyd.
This may go into your next point, I'm not sure, but a key part of being efficient is actually stopping doing certain things.
Yes.
If you're spending your time doing something and you come to the realization, intentionally or unintentionally, that it's not having the desired outcome, it can be really good to stop doing that. So you could suggest to your manager, I actually spend 5 hours of my average week on this thing. I don't see us getting the outcome that we thought we would from that activity. Do I have permission to stop that and spend my time on other more useful things? Exactly.
And ensuring as well that the goals you've got and the responsibilities are realistic. Because sometimes I think, and a lot of companies are really trying to squeeze as much as they can out of their employees, that sometimes the goals you've been set and your responsibilities are unrealistic for the time you've got. So I think it's a really good idea to look at what you're doing and track your time to see what's actually achievable, because it may be right for you to go to your line manager and say, you've set me these goals and objectives, looking at the time I have, it's taking me this long to do that, this long to do that, and I don't think it's realistic. So can we sort of change this up? Also, in terms of time management, if you either your company will sort of communicate a way of effectively managing your time, but they may not as well. So if that is the case, then if they don't communicate that to you, you need to create your own way of effectively managing your time. Now, there's lots of different ways you can do this, and there's lots of tools online and resources to help you. Something that we find really effective is like time blocking in our calendar. So setting out everything you need to do for the week or the month, and then blocking out time in your calendar so that you can visually see all the time you have to achieve what you need to achieve.
If you're working in a business or working with colleagues that don't have these systems in place and aren't as efficient with their time, it's a good thing for you to be the most organized in the room and you to be doing things. And I think what I've seen in this business and in other workplaces is if someone actually starts something themselves, like, oh, I'm actually doing this to manage my time now to be more efficient, it spreads. People will go, oh, that's interesting. Okay, what? And you've been able to do more because of this. And it kind of spreads throughout the business. So don't be afraid to be bold and be the first person to implement those things. Don't feel like you have to do what everyone else does around you.
And think of the compounding benefit of that, right? So let's just say you created this new approach, like your company doesn't do time blocking and they just do things based on a to-do list. If you brought that process into your business, into their business, that you work for, and other employees started using it, think of over years how much time will be saved and the value of that to that company. Like it could be huge.
Yeah.
So it's definitely worthwhile being bold and doing it, as Lloyd mentioned.
Yes.
So the next key heading, Lloyd, and the thing to focus on is measuring success and making improvements. So a good marketing manager won't just suggest things or make changes to what they're doing based on gut feel. Like, oh, I don't. Yes, that does have what?
Good impression of gut feel.
Yeah. Oh, that doesn't quite feel right. Yes, there is definitely an element of this doesn't quite feel right. However, you should always be looking to back up your gut feel with data. So, for example, when whether you're responsible for social media, for running a podcast, for video marketing, for blogging, whatever it is you're responsible for, email marketing, you should be measuring and tracking the performance of whatever channel you're focusing on and looking at the data to see, is this working as effectively as it should be? And if it isn't, you can then look at the data and think, our email open rate is fairly low compared to industry standard. Let's try and improve that. And then you can start to suggest ways to improve that based on data.
If you want to try new things as well, a lot of people go into a role and there's been things done in a certain way and you're looking at it thinking, I really want to change this. But your colleagues around you or your managers, whatever, might be reluctant to change. If you go to them and just say, oh, I want to change this because I reckon it'll be better, they're probably going to be like, well, no, this is how we do it. I don't really want to change that. If you go to them and say, our email open rate is this %, average is 10% higher. My previous employers had an open rate that was 20% higher because we did this, this, and this. I'd like to try this, which I think is going to increase the open rate by 18%. Then you're going with data, you're going with reasoning. It's going to be very hard for them to say no to that because it's illogical for them to say, you're going to do this thing that you've already proven to improve email open rate. That's what we want to achieve. If they still say no, then that's probably a bit of a toxic place to work because that's not a logical thing to do.
Yeah. And again, like Lloyd said earlier, that data is going to show you that you should be stopping doing certain things. So just to give you some examples of some recent things we've completely changed or stopped, we now have a vertical video first approach, which we've done a whole podcast episode on this before, because looking at the data, the platforms where vertical video is distributed was helping us get more reach, more engagement than other platforms. We've kind of moved to a vertical video first approach. We've also stopped fully writing out transcripts for our podcasts because the time versus benefit wasn't worth it after analyzing the kind of SEO to our website. There's a whole range of things that we've kind of stopped doing, and you need to be looking at the data that you're managing to see what you should be stopped doing as well. Next thing, being proactive. We've already spoken about this based on multiple sort of different topics, but this is something that can really make you stand out. Don't just do what you're asked to do. Really think about working backwards from your goals and objectives. What can you do to achieve those goals and objectives that hasn't been suggested. This is something that can really make you stand out, coming up with new ideas and ways of doing things. And again, it'll probably take you time to get settled into your role before you start coming up with all these great ideas. But once you've sort of got used to what you're doing, start to think of better ways of doing things, and that can really make you
And if
stand
any
out.
of our employees are listening with being proactive, what do you think they should do? Just, without us expecting, just wash our cars while we're at work, or just bring presents in that you're not expecting, being proactive?
Yeah, I mean,
that kind of thing.
just making coffees and things,
Yeah,
that
really
could be something
being
proactive whenever
proactive.
you want one.
Yeah.
Um,
But maybe making us lunch. Be proactive.
this isn't a
could
good look,
be.
Lloyd.
And just examples of what could be proactive in this business.
The final thing that I'm going to move swiftly on from that.
Okay, yeah.
The final thing that you keep taking the piss at me for, but I think is one of the most important points, is being bold. Now, what I mean by this is having the confidence to push back and like break the norm, or push back against things that you're being asked to do if you don't feel that it's right. Again, based on data. So, for example, your line manager or your boss may say to you, I want you to spend a day a week writing out the transcript for this podcast episode to post on our website, which we were literally doing.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
Sounds like a terrible idea. Well, no, we thought long form text for the SEO benefit would be good. Looking at the data, the time that we were putting into that versus the inbound traffic we were getting from search wasn't worth it.
I was quite bold and I pointed that out.
So
didn't I?
Lloyd was actually quite bold, and he pointed that out to me, that he didn't think that was a good. And then when I looked at it, I thought, Lloyd is correct.
But interestingly, I had the gut feel that
Yes.
it might not be worth it. And then I was bold
Yeah.
and I said, I don't think it's worth it. Then actually you looked at
Yeah.
the data, because like we're saying now, it doesn't make sense to just think something and then change something drastic.
Yeah.
You looked at the data and looking it together, it's like, actually, well done for being
Yeah.
bold, Lloyd.
Yeah.
That does look like we could spend that time more effectively on other things.
Yeah. And also, like, we could go back to doing that if it got even worse. So there's no there's no negative of trying something new. So for example, Lloyd said this in the last episode, because we always say this, but being very meta.
I knew it would happen.
Being very meta, this podcast.
Business Anchors Bingo. Tick it off your list.
If you're a Business Anchors regular, you'll notice that we have Knowlton Nuggets, which are short audio snippets from full podcasts. We're releasing one of those every Monday and a full podcast every Thursday. Looking at the data, we don't believe that releasing a Knowlton Nugget is worthwhile.
Hashtag bold.
So we're being bold, and we're doing like a 3-month test to not release a Knowlton Nugget every week and just release a full episode. And we're going to look at the data and see how that impacts the total time you guys are listening to this podcast and our number of downloads. And we're going to see how it works.
Can I be very meta?
Yeah.
Listeners, if you particularly like or don't like, or listen to all of them or don't listen to any of them with the Knowlton Nuggets, can you let us know? Because we are doing an experiment and we are trying to work out what you guys like and don't like. So let us know.
Yeah. So hopefully that's some good advice there. Lloyd, do you have any tips for listeners who are looking to excel in their marketing role?
Just be as bold as you can be.
Okay.
No. Oh, excuse me.
Sounds right.
Just briefly, I think the most important thing is, you mentioned at the start, understanding what your goals are and what you need to achieve. If you understand that and work towards that constantly, if the most important thing for you to say, for us and our marketing manager, it's like, we just want to reach far more people than we do now. And I know that's vague, but you can put all your efforts into that. And then at the end of the year, being like, we've reached 12 times the amount of people we did before.
That's what you wanted me to do.
That's what you wanted me to do. I've done it. I've not only done it, but I've done it really well, and it's got crazily good results. Can you please pay me more, promote me, support me in my future decision making, because I've shown you that I can really have a positive effect. It just gives you all the things you would want in that role to be able to achieve bigger and better things. I think understanding what people want from you and just going all in that. And
Yeah.
using the data to back everything up is so important.
Yeah.
Just
So-
summarizing what you said, and be bold.
It sounds really simple when you actually talk about it, but yeah, this is the stuff that will work.
Yes. Especially being bold.
Yeah. I hate you.
Okay.
Cool. So that's everything I have to share. Anything else from you, Lloyd?
No, I don't think so.
Are you gonna make a joke about being bold?
No,
before-
no, not at all. I would not do that.
Okay, cool. Well, yeah, looking forward to
Seeing
Seeing
your
your
ears
ears next
next week. Be bold.